Welcome guys to the Come Up Starter Kit. I have a special guest with me, Prajna. Today what we're going to discuss is around people that have gone on maternity leave or paternity leave and now looking to enter back into the job force. But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to pass it over to Prajna to introduce herself.
Hi guys, this is Prajna. I am currently a business analyst at HostPlus. I've been a software test engineer for about 7 years. Not 7 years, maybe less than that. But then business analysis was always a component of my job.
Perfect. All right. So, Prajna, thank you so much for joining me today. For me, what I really wanted to do was discuss with yourself. So I know that you're an established business analyst and you had been working obviously previously in India. You've came over here and you also obtained experience. But then I guess you also had that opportunity to become a wonderful mother and have children. And then you had to sort of re-enter back into the workforce. How was that situation? What was that like when you sort of, you finished up work, started looking after the kids, and then knowing that you had to go back out to the workforce? What was the difficult components around that?
Yeah, I think people really wouldn't be, people wouldn't want to take a break 7 years and working for a great company in Australia. People wouldn't want to take a break there. People would just continue. But I made a decision for myself. I took a break. So I was here in Australia in 2016 and I landed a career with Planet Software Testing Management Systems as a test analyst, but with Australian Super as a test analyst and a digital business analyst. So I worked with Australian Super for about 1 year when I took the decision of going on a maternity leave.
Yeah.
Like not into the full maternity leave, but then I wanted to, expand my family.
Yeah.
So I went back to India and I had a break of 2 years. I mean, like that 2 years would have been enough to, shatter my career. But then I always had at the back of my mind that I have to get my career moving. I have to get on with my life. And, babies and families, husband, marriage, these things happen. These are a part and parcel of life, but you have to find the balance between. And you have to make sure you don't get lost in between somewhere. So once I had the maternity break, I decided to come with my husband again back to Australia.
Right.
And then just launch myself in the market.
Right. Okay. And so when you launched back into the market, was the market quite receptive to you? Were there any sort of difficulties did you have? Were they questioning about why did you take some time off? What were the things that sort of came about?
Yeah, you wouldn't believe I would really say back in 2016, I was on a temporary visa.
Right.
So it was quite easy, quite smooth experience for me to land a job. And the only glitch was, the only catch there would be, okay, so you're on temporary visa. Okay, but we can take the risk. And you would just go. And when I started my job search here in 2019, it was so hard. Like it was horribly hard, even with a permanent residence.
Right.
It was very hard to get into the right role, into the right fit.
Right.
And yeah, I just had to, open all my guns and just go in there. Like, yeah.
What were the main things that, whether it be the recruiters or the hiring managers, what were the pushback that you were getting? So in 2019, what were the main sort of pushbacks?
Well, yeah, so 2019 is more relevant, so I would speak to you about it.
Yeah.
Um, I think in 2019, the the job description, it was so specific, and the recruiters would not look at your profile if your CV or your experience did not match with the job description. Um, okay, so I used to eat, sleep, and dream on seek.com.au, on job portal. On every job portals, you wouldn't believe, Seek, Indeed, and Jura.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So I don't know what the baby was doing all day. He used to cling to me. He used to look at TV. So whatever he did, he did. But I always used to have my mobile on hand,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just go through all the job descriptions, and and according to that, I would align my CV. And after that, after a few, after a few applying for a few jobs and stuff, I would also search for jobs on LinkedIn.
Right.
So, a wonderful discovery that the recruiters or the consulting firms, they were the forefront in picking up candidates, and that's when I came to know you.
Yeah.
uh, right. Yeah, and I would really consider myself lucky that you picked on me. Like, you had slotted some time for me to discuss about my career and my CV, and the feedback you gave on my CV was so wonderful. I made complete use of it, and I think, Shankar, that also landed me this job offer that I'm now doing.
Perfect. Okay. What were the
Yeah.
so what do you think are some sort of key criteria? So you had your CV in one way. How do you think that when you made some changes, that sort of helped? So what do you think that you could pass on to other people that may be in your position?
Well, yes. So it was not one day that I did it, all right. It was a series of failures and mistakes, and that counted almost like over 6 months.
Yeah. Okay.
6 months I kept on refining my CV to be what it is right now,
Yeah.
to get me into an interview, to get me this offer.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was definitely a lot of you have to use a lot of relevant experience, whatever you do. So Australian employers or Australian recruiters work part time, but what you got from that job, even if you're working at a cafe, you have to improve your people skills.
Yeah.
Yeah, even whatever it is. So I got a part-time job as a data analyst at a nonprofit organization, and there I got exposure to government sectors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is the kind of experience that I'm looking for. So mostly I would say that Australian employers look for the variety of sectors that you've worked in. Uh, Definitely people skills.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. People skills. And I also think they're looking for some so in 2019, the recruitment thing has really got specific to like if I had not any superannuation experience, I wouldn't be counted for a finance company.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
So
think
this
that
is in 2019 that I'm talking about.
Yeah, you think that they've the way that the recruitment industry has sort of got, or how they are going about their search, is that they are looking for people that have specific industry expertise or specialization, and then that's where you need to move into. Or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they do really value your experience in wide variety, and they would always, like, pick on you, like what you did in this sector, what you did in that sector, and whatever you put forward in your CV, it should match with the recruiter's job description.
Yeah.
with the employer's expectation. Whatever you do, whatever you say, it should match with the job description.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
whenever you would apply for different roles, did you always make sure to tailor your CV to that specific job description?
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea if you want to land an interview.
Yeah.
Not necessarily you'll land an offer with a, with a very embezzled CV, but definitely you have to, for every job description you have to refine your CV, and
Yeah.
that's a tough job in itself. That's not an easy task.
So that's probably a good thing. So when you sort of mentioned that, what are the key tips around a CV that you would mention? What are maybe 3 key tips?
uh for a CV, so it's well, now you're talking about, how a regular employee would just, for any regular employee who has not taken a break, he might just put his experience. But for me, it was difficult. I had to put in 2 years of maternity leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because maternity 2 years. Oh my gosh, reject.
That's what they think sometimes, right? Yeah.
Not think that has happened.
Yeah. Okay.
In
Okay.
fact,
Right. Okay. And
yeah,
how did that?
that happens.
Yeah.
So even then you have to project your 2 years. You were not on a break. So I told my recruiters, like, see, 2 years is not a bad thing, because I know I would be launching myself back when my child grew up. So it's not a bad thing. I took time for my own introspection.
Mm,
I knew what my strengths were, and I was working on my weaknesses. I discovered certain things, like, how I read a lot during my maternity leave. I read storybooks a lot.
right.
You know what that happens? Uh, Now in a business analysis, storytelling,
Mm,
it's a component of business analysis, and
yeah.
you just don't get the idea from vacuum, from blank. You have to know
Yes.
how the storytelling goes. So reading storybooks, it's such a simple thing, but the how the storytelling, and with all the new stuff like user experience and user centered designs and stuff like that. Well, I would say, for anyone going through a break, not just a maternity break, just I would suggest, just try to read about the new stuff that's coming up,
Mm, okay.
and upskill yourself in, like, every 2 to 4 months. Just upskill
Yeah. What do you
yourselves in those stuff.
and when you sort of now that you sort of reflect back on when you had your sort of time off with maternity leave, are there any sort of specific courses or things that you would have like to upskill in that would have maybe potentially helped your chances when looking for a job?
Yeah, so like I said, I spent a lot of time on job portals,
Yeah. Yeah.
LinkedIn. So these portals have their own learning hubs,
Yeah.
and I didn't usually run up for a course or do anything, but I always used to read stuff, all the courses, just watch the videos. um, Definitely my career has always been inclined on the technological side.
Yes.
So i so i so i just uh, i was just learning about testing automation.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, and yeah, complicated. Yeah, so test automation. And then when I started my career in business analysis, now my focus has shifted to user experience, and business modeling and stuff like that, how that happens in organizations.
Yeah.
And not necessary that you have to be a part of the large team. Even if you are in a small team, or even if you're in a small team, you could just have your individual contribution.
Hmm.
in those small stuffs that you learn from those videos.
Yeah, very good. Okay. What are maybe some 3 mistakes that you were making during your search that you can potentially pass on that, that you could have sort of done better?
Yeah. Mistakes. Yeah. Well, I can reflect on some of the mistakes. Definitely you get distracted during the job search.
Okay, distracted,
because
yeah.
back in India, we're supposed to do everything, right? Like
Mm,
even the software testers do debugging and stuff like that. All
right.
right,
Okay.
we can do stuff. It's not
Yes.
like we are we are tied. Our hands were not tied back in India, so we are supposed to know stuff and keep things working.
Yes.
When we come here in Melbourne, and because the job description, sometimes you'll find the job description is very specific. So and you just want to go to the interview and say that, oh, apart from business analysis, I am a C++ programmer, I can do Java, I can do stuff. But yeah, recruiters don't want to hear that. All right, so you are a business analyst. What experience of business analysis do you bring from here? So even I was a software tester, I told my recruiters very clearly that business analysis used to be a component in my life,
Yeah.
because we had to go through all the requirement documents and stuff like that. We had to take it up with the client, we had to make the acceptance criteria, we had to tally with them. But I would never tell my recruiters, I also know Tosca, I also know Selenium. That's really irrelevant to them.
Right.
And I did that.
Right.
Reject. So at
Right. Okay.
Host Plus, I kept very tight control on my mouth, and I said that, okay, yeah, but thankfully my managers here, technologically, they're very, very literate.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's an added skill. So yeah, so don't get distracted while getting job search, and yeah, I can't think of any other.
No, that's fine. I think that's a good one.
I made a lot of mistakes. I also made the mistake of going to my first, like, after the maternity break. It was my first, and
sorry, it just cut out. What was that? It was your first, sorry, what?
After the maternity break in Melbourne.
Yeah.
After the maternity break, it was my first interview, like first interview in about 1 year.
Right. Okay. Yes.
And it's just so difficult, 1 year of maternity break, it seems like 10 years in regular life. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah, so after the interview, I went there, I was all prepared and stuff, and the interview started fine.
Mm-hmm.
But when the actual hard questions kept coming in, like why, how would you do, why would you do, how did you do, my mind just completely shut down. Shut down then and there, in front of the reporting manager, in front of the HR. My just kept quiet, and
Right.
thankfully the reporting manager could identify that.
Yes.
He could understand what was happening, and he said, like, okay. So he reverted back to easier questions, and then he just let me off. Yeah, so then the mistake is, like, don't think about anything else during the interview. Just answer what's coming in front of you. Just answer it.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Maybe when we discuss around that, was there any ways that after you had those particular type of questions, were there ways that you tried to prepare yourself? Was there any material that you went over to, or was it just sort of trying to keep your mind calm?
Yes. not just taking my mind calm. So what I understood after that interview, that I so that was the first time I left my child with my husband at home. All right, so my son
Right.
had no idea what it feels like to be without the mother.
Yes. Okay.
All right, and that was the same thing that was going on in my mind, like, what
Right.
is he doing right now? Is he crying? Is my husband able to keep him? Yeah, so those things eventually made my mind shut down.
Okay.
So later on, I would usually stick to telephonic interviews
Okay.
and maybe just a 15 minutes of face to face. Like, you know, when I met you
Yeah.
at 140 Williams, so my husband was out there with the baby stroller. My child wouldn't be a problem right now, wouldn't be traumatic
Yes.
if I saw him, because he was strolling on the street. So that kept my mind calm.
Okay.
Um, the other thing, the other thing is, like, be prepared. Just be prepared what the interview is going to be like. And in Australia, I found it's not very stressful.
Yeah.
It's very nice. People are very nicely talking. People have a very good sense of humor, and they're always talking to you. I think one thing that would help is talk to the locals. Just not for interviews or job or anything like that. So if someone has come newly to Melbourne and someone wants to launch themselves into the market,
Yeah.
just start by talking to the locals a word or two, just like, hi, are you mate?
Yes. Yes.
So my building manager, actually, my building manager, when we met face to face, and she was a very chirpy one, she would like talk like to interact with her.
Yeah.
She was an Australian. So once you talk to the locals, you get an idea of how the conversation flows and how their body language are. You just get, you get into that comfortable zone that, okay, I'm able to
Yeah.
talk.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What about? I think this will be definitely a question that would help a lot of mothers coming back into the workforce. When when you went for that first interview and you're a bit worried that you're thinking about, will my baby be okay? How is he and what like that? What would you do next time to sort of try and calm your mind? Or is it just sort of continually going to interviews and knowing that your child will be okay, or are there certain measures that you can put in place to sort of ease your mind?
Look, Shankar, I would really tell you, the biggest roadblock for any mother coming back, trying to come back to work, is what will happen to my child.
Yeah.
What will happen to my child? Nothing will happen to your child. Keep, just keep your child with the person you trust, even if it be the neighboring lady,
Right.
just for 1 hour or so. Or maybe just ask your husband for help, like if he can stroll. Like, my husband used to accompany me everywhere to the interview so
Okay.
that he could hold the child.
Okay.
Nothing will happen to your child, all right? Even when I landed in a part-time job, it was just 3 days a week. Okay. I thought, what will happen to my child? Who'll look after him? He can't speak, he can't walk proper. He couldn't even walk properly when he was 1.5 years.
Right.
So yeah, very disturbing. Um, but then my husband had some savings and we put him at the nearest childcare center.
Uh-huh.
All right. And I just took my mind off from the baby. And I said, like, anyways, he will grow up.
Yeah.
He will eat when he's hungry. Even he can't speak, at least he can do stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the biggest apprehension of any mother. And I think you should just put him into trusted hands and let it go. There's a very good thing in Australian culture that people do realize that you're having a kid and you might need to leave office early or something like that.
Yeah.
And I came to know that later, that you can ask your employer for arrangements, work from home arrangements, or leaving from office early. So you can always tell your employer that I have a child at home.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right. Let me ask another sort of question. Let me just see. What were the sort of typical questions that you would get from recruiters when, if they may have asked, okay, did you do anything during your time off while doing maternity? Were there any sort of obscure questions that you found difficult to ask or even answer?
Well, that's a good thing. They don't ask this kind of questions.
Yeah. And they shouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. I have never faced that. And every time I mentioned that I took 2 years maternity leave, most of the women would say, "Oh, really? That's such a good thing."
Yeah. Okay.
And they really appreciate when you take time off for your child
Yes.
or for your family. They do really appreciate that. But then I think it's a good thing for the candidate to reflect how they use that time.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
anyone that run after my kid, I eat, do something like that, eat, sleep. No, I would really, I did personally. I read a lot of stuff. I utilized my time completely.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What about in terms of when you went out and started looking for jobs? So what were your methods? Was it you would go onto the job boards? Did you also try and build relationships with the recruiters? What was the ways of trying to go about your job search?
Very good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, back in 2016 when I was on a temporary visa and I contracted with Australian Super while being a part of Planet,
Yeah.
Australian culture also, people have that word of mouth communication,
Mm.
the word of mouth reputation and recommendation that plays a big part. And when you are serious enough to take it to the next level, what I did, I went back to my ex-colleagues asking for their recommendation on LinkedIn.
Right.
Because whatever you do, however you search, people will search you up on LinkedIn, whether you have a solid profile on LinkedIn.
Mm.
All right. And there, if you can get your colleagues to give some recommendations, that would be super, super awesome.
Okay.
Because I really benefited, and I'm really grateful to my ex-managers and my friend who gave recommendations on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think that plays a good role. Yeah.
How did you go about? I know a lot of people, when I speak to other candidates as well, they're a bit nervous to speak to people that they've worked with previously in the past. They're not sure how to reach out to them. How would you sort of tell them, how to go about it?
Look, for me, specifically for myself, I'm a very people-centered personality.
Yeah.
I like people around me, and frankly speaking, my ex-colleagues are my friends.
Yeah.
If I tell, he will really snap back at me because we are friends.
Yeah.
And I have always believed in building relationships,
Yeah.
building relations, rather, not relationship, relations with your teams,
Yes.
because that goes a long way.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm here because we work with them like 9 to 5. Like we are working with the team 9 to 5 for a major part of our lives. So I think it's a good time. And because my ex managers, my ex colleagues are my friends.
Mm.
With it, even they're on my Facebook, they're my friends. They're not very difficult to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. um Yeah, so I think it's a very good component if you can build those relationships. So you don't break the bridge, all right,
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
walk over.
yeah.
You keep the bridges open.
Well, yeah, okay. And did you and you mentioned that LinkedIn was a huge part to your search and stuff like that. You know, were there ways that you sort of knew how to sort of optimize your page or make sure that it was sort of up to date? How did you sort of go about that?
Right. So um so I don't know how LinkedIn work. I don't know how the recruiters search,
Yeah.
but I definitely you know, all the whatever LinkedIn offers you on the feature, you get people to endorse your skills,
Hmm.
add the relevant skills, and you ask people to endorse it.
Hmm.
uh Use the relevant keywords. Another thing, yeah, so your
Oh,
not
sorry,
just your
just
CV.
repeat that one again. It just cut out.
Sorry, the job description, that the job you're applying for.
Yeah.
So not you of course you would update your CV with the that aligns with the job description, but then you have to update your LinkedIn profile as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would really optimize the search, I think.
Yeah. I think you must make sure that
because
you mirror.
because I have data to prove that, because many on LinkedIn that,
Hmm.
hi Prajna, I was searching for this skill and your profile came up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bad news, I was already recruited.
But
so,
but
so
that's
yeah.
a good thing though.
Yeah,
That,
yeah. So that's what that you have to optimize your CV,
yeah.
like,
Okay.
like
All right. Very good. All right. So if we were to sort of wrap this up, so a mother coming into the workforce or entering back into the workforce, what are the three major tips that you would let them know of?
first tip would be just let go of that thought, what will happen to my child.
Yeah.
The other tip would be stay very focused, stay very innovative, stay efficient, and stay productive, and always have a bright smile. That 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 closes all loose ends. Always have a bright smile all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
V- Very good. All right. Look, Prajna, thank you so much for your time. You've been wonderful. I think you've provided the viewers with a lot of information that will definitely help them with their job search.
Yeah. I
Uh,
always do this to my friends also who came here, you know, onshore, who came and who were starting to look for a job. I shared these tips with my friends that you are going nowhere without LinkedIn.
okay.
Yeah, and another thing, like, I think you mentioned that earlier, that is it fair enough to look for Australian jobs when you're overseas? No, it is not. You can always start searching from overseas and you can see what kind of job titles and job roles they offer,
Yes.
but you always have to apply when you're in Australia.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. I think that, you know, for you to be considered, you definitely need to be onshore rather than offshore
Yep.
because there's a whole lot of local talent that they can pick from. So why would
Yeah.
they sort of go overseas? Yeah, I think that's very true.
Yep.
Very good. Anything else?
The last thing I would like to add, Shankar, you have been really helpful, and you know, people who'll be watching, you know, just get hold of Shankar till he has the time. While Shankar has the time, you know, get your CV reviewed, get your profile reviewed, and Shankar, you really provide solid feedback, which really came in handy. Yeah.
Thank you, Prajna. Thank you so much for your time. I'm just going to pause it now.